So let's look at the ROI for a few real examples here. So 130,000 tapes annually. The two customers that we can point to that have that volume to have about 40 locations each. And their cost per month to ship tapes is about $1.1 million. That's the marginal cost. That's the stock tape, the blank tapes, the dubbing, the packaging, the shipping, the ingest cost, $1.1 million. So if you were to replace this system with a content distribution management system, you would need to buy, well, you'd have to invest here. So first of all, what's it going to cost you each month? So the main site, the main hub of the facility, the main facility that you're going to actually move the tapes from, you would need a pretty hefty bandwidth connection. So we've got tagged here at 1 gigabit per second, and that in today's market is about $25,000 per month. And then the satellite locations, you're talking about a DS3, which runs about $5,000 a month. You probably can do a little better than that, but I want to be conservative. So your monthly bandwidth expense is $225,000. Now, think about this. So you're spending $1.1 million, and you're looking at taking on an additional $225,000 of incremental expense. But that's going to offset that $1.1 million because you're not going to be burning tapes. So think about 130,000 tapes is about 10,000 tapes a month. Say $20 each. It's $200,000 just in raw tapes, blank tapes. Okay, so that's not all though. You have more than just bandwidth costs. You have to have hardware, you have to have software, you have to have implementation costs. So the hardware is about $125,000. The software in the first years of maintenance is $600,000, and the implementation cost will be about another $100,000. So your fixed investment for this particular project is about $825,000. By the way, this is not doctored. These are list prices for, or real prices for the actual product. So it's about $825,000 of a fixed upfront cost. But you're spending $1.1 million per month. So when you actually look at this, $1.1 million per month, incremental monthly bandwidth cost of $225, so you're going to take that off the top. And then, so every month, you're going to save $886,000 by not moving tapes. And your total fixed investment now is $825,000. So in 1.1 months, you're going to pay back that investment. So it seems like that would be a pretty good thing to do if you were a company. Now, there's a lot of variables here, but what could it be? Worst case, if I'm off by 3 times, it's going to be 3-month payback. That's just an incredible ROI. So that's a great example. So I wanted to take a look at and show you how things, what's the elasticity of the ROI. And so look at this chart here. This is payback in days, not years, not months, not weeks. These are days. So if you've got 2 locations and you're shipping 100,000 tapes per year between those 2 locations, your payback time is 2 days, believe it or not. So that's kind of an ideal situation. Location A, location B, and moving content between them, 2-day payback. Let's look at something that's probably more in the midterm, so mid-range. You got a facility, 10 facilities, and you're moving about 10,000 tapes per year between those facilities. And essentially, ballpark, you're spending a couple $100,000 a year moving tapes around. Actually, about $2 million moving tapes around. Your payback period is about 61 days, so about 2 months. And everything after that is gravy. You're putting that money back to the bottom line. That's profit. You're going to now be able to drop right to the bottom line, right to the profit line. And even in some of the worst case scenarios where you've got fewer tapes in lots of locations, you're talking about 160 days. So less than 6-month payback period. So as low as 2 days, again, an ideal world. 37 days for a small amount of tapes between 2 locations, to about less than a half a year. So think about that. Okay, so another example, real world example, is we have another customer who has company-owned trucks. They were paying about $80,000 per month for FedEx. between two facilities, one that were about 1,500 miles apart. And they decided, and they were shipping about 16,000 tapes per month between these two facilities. So what they realized was, we're going to buy a couple of panel trucks, we're going to hire some drivers, and we're going to have them move the tapes between the two locations, because we can cut our cost in half. So they went from about 80,000 to 44,000, and that was a good ROI. I mean, essentially they went, they paid for, every month they were putting about $40,000 back into the bottom line by doing that. Well, we're working with them to replace the trucks with totally file-based movement over networks, content distribution management. So they bought two OC3s in the two facilities for about $20K per month. Excuse me, that's total $20K across the two of them. About $12,000 in hardware, pretty beefy servers. About $100K in software, about $50K to implement. So about $162,000 incremental fixed investment over the $20K per month. So their total cost per month was $284,000 now with the tapes and the trucks. And if you look at this, their total cost $284. They take off the bandwidth, they get to $264. Their fixed investment $162,000. So in 0.6 months, or about 15, 16, 17, 18 days, they're going to pay back that investment. So, they went from giving that money to shipping companies, to using their own trucks, to actually having their own file-based content distribution management solution, and essentially paying that off in less than a month. Another great example. Another customer that we're working with, actually, that is in an environment that's somewhat hazardous to tape infrastructure, has about 100 tape machines that they were using to do dubbing and to ingest content, etc. And that infrastructure was aging, and they were looking at having to spend about $20K per machine to get them all refurbed. 100 machines. We're talking about a $2 million expenditure to actually get their infrastructure back up to operational, get it operational again. And they characterized that as a Band-Aid. We're going to spend $2 million for a Band-Aid. So they took a look back, and they had they basically came up with a digital media distribution initiative. That's their words for it. And it was less than $500K, or essentially 1/4 of their tape investment. And they had to spend a little bit of tape on the tape machines, but to get some of them back operational. But for about 1/4 of their investment, they were able to go to a file-based distribution model. Plus, this doesn't even count the marginal cost savings, because now they're moving files and not tapes. So again, a very quick ROI. So what are the conclusions? Physical media shipment is deeply entrenched. I mean, it is pervasive, it is everywhere, it is business as usual. But you will be less responsive and less competitive if you stay with it, as opposed to jumping on board with moving files around. If you move to files, you're going to get faster delivery times, you're going to have lower overall cost and labor cost, and immediate ROI. So every month you wait, you're wasting dollars. And that's the message that we have, is if you wait and you don't implement this now, you're wasting dollars every single month. So, in conclusion, you should definitely consider doing this sooner rather than later. If you go to www.signiant.com/tape-white-paper, you will find more information about this subject. And the only question that remains is, what would you do with all these tape wranglers and people that are making tapes now? And what the overall message is that across the industry is that we're going to put them to better use. They all want to do, they all aspire for bigger things. And they know your business, and they're talented folks, and you want to put them to more efficient use within your business. So I ran into one the other day, and I'll let him use his own words to talk about how he dubs tapes. Thank you very much. And hey, you're up early.
It's time to make the tapes.
Make the tapes?
Yes, I make tapes.
How do you do that?
put it in, press record, wait a little bit, put it in, and then I wait a little while, and I do it all over.
Wow, is that an important job?
Yes, it is. But I want to do more. I want to direct.